All right, you guys, get ready. Cross your fingers, cross your eyeballs, cross your butt cheeks. We'll make sure that this goes live. I think we're close. All right, we are officially live on YouTube, and I'm so excited that we were able to go live with Zoom, and Zoom has behaved for us today. So let's talk about what we're going to show you tonight, because this is exciting, and it's, to me, this is one of the tools that we have in Builderall that is worth its weight in gold once you learn how to use it, because it is incredible what features we have available, and that is the webinar platform. And I had a fantastic question from Sabrina, and it said, "Why are you using Zoom?" Well, it's not because I'm an old dog and I can't learn new tricks, because I am an old dog, but I learned a lot of new tricks with Builderall. And one of the things that Builderall's webinar platform is actually for webinars. Webinars are typically done with one speaker or maybe two or three speakers. But when you get more than that, then you're doing like a summit, right? And when you're doing a summit, then you need something like Zoom. So the webinar platform in Builderall is specifically designated as a platform to use for a real webinar. And notice I'm using air quotes, webinar. That's what we're going to call it. And that's where we have a single person or a few people that are all working together to introduce a product or a service before they send the people to a sales page, right? That's typically what a webinar is. This is in Zoom right here. This is a training room. This is where you guys get to come in. I get to see your lovely faces, and I'm training you, and I can allow you to ask questions. On a webinar, you typically don't have that. Your questions, if you want to answer them, are typically put into a chat, and you can grab those questions from chat and actually answer those questions. But very rarely do you see a live webinar or even a recorded webinar where you've got a bunch of people on the webinar that are asking questions and it's kind of a free-for-all. It's usually a very organized presentation with even PowerPoint slides and all that kind of stuff to keep on track for what you're trying to present, which is usually either a product or a service that that person or those couple of people are trying to sell. So that's why I'm using Zoom right now. I would love to use, and I have used the Builderall webinar tool to do trainings, but then it shuts me down as far as, number one, being able to see your faces, because you'll hear me a lot of times come back in and say, "Let me see your eyeballs," and that's to make sure you're getting it. And number two, this is very interesting when we do live questions, and that's another thing that I like to do that Zoom allows me to do, is take those live questions straight from you guys so that I can answer them on the fly, and we can have kind of those learning opportunities based on those questions that are asked. So it's just a lot different when you're doing a webinar trying to sell a product or service, and you're doing a training where you need to see those faces and they need to be able to ask questions. So Sabrina, did that answer your question? Let me see where Sabrina is. There she is. Was that a clear answer for you? You can either jump in and talk, or you can chat and let me know. And then Shawana
Yes,
says,
it was. Thank you.
You are so welcome, Sabrina. I'm so glad to answer that for you. We get that a lot. If we get asked, why are we using the Zoom platform and we have a webinar platform? And that's exactly why. In Zoom, we do meetings like this, the webinar tools for webinars. And you have less people to be on the panel. That's exactly right, Shawana. Shawana answered that question really well in chat. And then Dominic put in BA Nation. I can't do it like Brad does. I do the Shelly version, which is not near as good as Brad. But our Brad guy is definitely the one that is our BA Nation guy. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and jump in and look at the webinar platform and kind of play with it a little bit. But I do want to warn you, I have my camera on right now for Zoom. So when I start to go and do the live stuff with the webinar platform, because I have my camera on and may do some wonky stuff, just stick with me. I can actually turn my camera off and we'll see if that works and see if it pulls in the video. But if not, we'll just pretend like you can see me on the video, okay? So we're going to jump in and have some fun with the webinar platform. So I'm going to go to share my screen. And then I'm going to go over here to my platform. And I'm going to go to home. Oh, and I got a new commission. Yay me. And then I'm going to go to our webinar platform. Now I can find it here on my apps right here listed on my homepage, or I can just go to apps and then go over here to Builderall and our builder. Now you may see another one under legacy right here. That's our old webinar builder. And it's not supported like the new one is. So if you dare to jump in and use it, you may run into some glitches. Whereas the new one, they are supporting it and they are resolving any issues that pop up. So I suggest you jump into the new one for sure. But I'm going to go ahead and click the webinar builder and open it up. And inside here, I've got some webinars already here. I've got a Team Awesome webinar meeting and get your freebie webinar where I actually give away freebies and do live webinars on Facebook, on YouTube, on a special website that I have. So a freebie is a really fun one to do. And then just a generic Shelly's webinar if I want to pick up and do a webinar. So these are all in here and I can activate and use them at any moment, or I can go ahead and create a new webinar. So let's jump into my PowerPoint presentation and we'll play a little bit with some of the stuff that we're going to learn about the webinar platform. So first of all, what is the webinar platform? Yes, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Are you recording this for replay at a later date?
I'm not recording it, but it is going live to YouTube. So you'll be able to rewatch it on YouTube. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we've got a builder, my kitty's crying to go outside. Hang on just a minute, you guys. I'm going to stop sharing and see if I can get my husband to let the kitty outside, or else that kitty will torture me the entire time. So I'm going to yell. So I'm going to turn the microphone off. Hold on. I need the kitty out. All right.
Well, this is awkward. She forgot to turn her mic off.
I know, right? So I've got my husband. He's going to let the kitty out. We have bells on our door, and the bells actually we put for the dogs. We could teach the dogs how to let us know that they need to go outside. Well, that has not worked. And we've had the bells on the doors now for about 10 years. But it took the cats about 10 minutes to learn how to use the bells to be able to tell us that they want to go outside. So now what happens is it ding-a-ling-ling-ling-ling-ling-ling, ding-a-ling-ling-ling until we close, until we open the door for them. So that's what I was hearing in the background. But anyway, now I think we're all straightened out. The kitty's outside. We're good to go. So let's jump back in and check out the webinar platform. All right, so the webinar platform itself, this is a platform that allows you to live stream to Facebook or on YouTube, and to create a live or on-demand room, or you can create an evergreen webinar. Now I've got my other cat. I'm sorry, you guys. All right, so let me say that again. This is a platform that allows you to live stream to Facebook or YouTube, so you can actually go live to Facebook or live to YouTube. You can create a live or on-demand room, meaning you can go into a web page, and you can be live on that web page, or it could be on demand, as in the person goes to the page and it will start automatically. Or you can create an evergreen webinar, meaning that you set up several different schedules and the person can go in and they will see that recording. It's an evergreen webinar, meaning that every bit of information in that webinar is still good for however long that webinar runs. It's the same offer, it's the same price, it's the same information. They're just looking at it at the times that they can actually they're able in their schedule to look at it. So you can have a 8 o'clock webinar, a 12 o'clock webinar, a 4 o'clock webinar, and a 7 o'clock webinar. And that way the person would have options on what time they want to go into that webinar to watch it. So that's an evergreen webinar, meaning you can schedule it. And the evergreen part is that the webinar there's never really anything that needs to be changed. All the information in it is good no matter how long that webinar runs. And then, so that's a good definition of the Builderall webinar platform. And there are 3 main webinar types that we're going to work with today and we're going to talk about. And the first one is the live streaming. So we can live stream to YouTube or to Facebook or to any meeting room that has an RTMP service. And those are special servers that the webinar platform can connect to using a URL and a secret key. And when it connects to it, it can send the video to that specific service and go live. Okay, so that's live streaming, but it has to have RTMP service. So we'll take a look at how to find those RTMP keys and the URL so that you can live stream to YouTube or Facebook. The next one is the live or on demand room with a chat or login, meaning you can prepare a page and put your webinar in that page and go live to it, or you can do a recording on that page, but you can also include a chat. And here's the cool thing about the chat is that it's connected to Messenger so that you can actually have people asking questions on a pre-recorded webinar that's running while you're sitting on the beach. And as long as you have your cell phone with you and Messenger access, when they ask a question, you'll actually get it through Messenger and you'll be able to answer through Messenger. So it's really, really cool the way it works. And you'll be able to keep up with those webinars, even though you're not physically on the webinar and watching or participating in the webinar. You're just participating in the messages that are happening in the chat area. Also, you'll have the ability to create logins for people. So they have to log in with the username and password to get in, or they have to register with their email to be able to get in, which means now you're collecting emails for your email list. And you can also set it up again so it's live or it's recorded and on demand, meaning they open up the page and the webinar starts. And then the next one is the evergreen scheduled webinar. So this type of webinar is what you'll use when you want to repeat a webinar over and over and over again. And you've probably all seen these where you go to sign up and they say, which one do you want to go to? You want to go to the 8 o'clock one? You want to go to the noon one? Do you want to go to the 5 o'clock one? Do you want to go to the 9 o'clock one? And you choose the one that you want to go to, and then you are scheduled for that time slot, and you get all the information via email for that time slot on where to go, how to sign in, how to get access to the webinar. And you can also create a form that allows you to collect their emails so that when they choose the webinar and they put in their information, you've got their email for your email list. So all 3 of those, we're going to talk about all 3 of them and show how you can set them up. So these are some definitions we're going to go through, including RTMP settings, the secret key, and the stream key or URL for the RTMP settings. So we'll cover that tonight. We're going to cover ghost users, which is an amazing feature that we have inside of the webinar. And then we've already talked about evergreen and what that means. All it means is a webinar that repeats, and all of the information in the webinar is, it does not need to change. So you don't have to go on live to say, it's now $49 instead of $69. No, the webinar stays exactly the same. It's just on repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So that's an evergreen webinar. Nothing needs to change in there. So now let's talk about going into the actual webinar platform. But before I do, I want to kind of look at your eyeballs. Is everybody with me so far? Good. Okay. Fantabulous.
Wait a minute.
Let's keep going.
I got a question for you.
Oh,
now,
good.
If I want to do one live and I set it up to go on the website, and then set it up where they got to pay for it, then it can also be evergreen once I've completed it.
Right. So what you can do is you can send it to go live on YouTube and then stream it from YouTube to the page the first time. And then you can set it up so that it's on YouTube. You just put the YouTube video in as the YouTube video afterwards, and you've got an evergreen, right? So the first time you do it live. And then from then on, you actually put it as just a YouTube video. Does that sound right? Thumbs up.
Shelley, do you get the advertisements from YouTube though when you do that, when you put your video up there?
Do you mean the advertisements like Oh, for the ads?
Yeah, like
all you have to do is, yeah, all you have to do is turn off the ads for that video and no ads will show.
okay.
If you're monetizing your YouTube channel, you have to physically tick a box that says monetize. If you do not want ads to show, then you just untick that box and you won't see ads.
But sometimes other people's ads show up as well, like when the video's over.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. So if that is an issue that you don't want to have to deal with, then you can use something like Vimeo and do an iframe of a video from Vimeo. So iframe is always a possibility.
Okay.
Okay. I never worry about it. Hopefully by the time the video's done and those come up, they're already bought.
Okay, now another thing that if you use the webinar and put it onto Cheetah, and you're doing that, so you still have to go through YouTube to go back to the webinar.
There's several different ways to do it, so we're going to talk about the several different ways. Okay. Okay. All right. Any more questions before I keep going? Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, on the second option, which was the live on demand with the chat, could that also be evergreen?
Yes.
That is a recording, right?
It is, but on demand means that they're just gonna say click a button and it goes straight to the page rather than saying I want to watch the 9 o'clock version. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump back in if there are no more pressing questions. And let's start setting up some webinars. This is the fun part. So I'm going to go ahead and click create webinar. And the first thing I have to do is decide which one am I doing? Am I doing the streaming, or am I doing the live on demand, or am I doing the evergreen and / scheduled webinar? So to choose that, let's just go right in order. So we'll do streaming first. So I'll make sure I click that. And then I'm going to go to next. And then here, I'm going to say, do I want to stream in a webinar room or do I want to stream a file? And I need to stop sharing again because I have another cat that's ringing the bells. So I'm going to turn off my microphone so I don't yell in y'all's ear. Sorry, you guys, this is Grand Central Station tonight. All right, so let's jump back in. So we have to decide for this live webinar, are we going to push it into a webinar room or do we want to stream a file? So if we want to go into a webinar room, that means we're going to have a live video that we're going to see when we live stream, and we're going to be able to pull in guest speakers, up to 2 of them if we want to. If we stream a file, that means we're going to pull in a video that's pre-recorded and we're going to stream that video. Okay, let me make sure you guys understand that. So we have the choice of a webinar room where we go live like talking head, I am live and in person, or I can stream a video live to Facebook or YouTube. Okay, got it? All right, so I'm going to choose webinar room because the stream file is pretty self-explanatory. When you stream file, you just pick the file that you want to stream, which I have one in there already. And if you don't have one, you just upload a new video and then you click next and you go through just about all the same settings that we're going to do in the webinar room. But there's a couple of differences in the webinar room. So I'm going to click webinar room. And then I choose the server that I want to use. So I need to choose the server that's closest to me. For you guys, most of you are going to be USA. There's only 2. There's USA or Brazil. So if you're in Brazil, yeah, that one's closer. Most of you guys are going to choose the USA one. And then it says, are you going to invite participants? Like say, oh my gosh, I have to have Davida with me. So I would say yes. And if I didn't have any participants and it was only me, I could say no. And then allow stream to RTMP. And what that means is the special servers that are set up so that you can have a stream URL and a key so that you can stream to that service. So I'm going to say yes, because in order to stream to YouTube, in order to stream to Facebook, I need to have the RTMP servers in place. So when I click yes, I have the option to stream to YouTube or the option to stream to Facebook. So I'm going to click YouTube first. And when I do, it says authorize access before proceeding. So I have to give this program permission to live stream to YouTube on my YouTube channel. So I can only go to my own YouTube channel. So I'm going to click authorize access, and I'm going to go into my account and then click the actual channel I want to use. And now it's setting up access. And if you'll notice, it automatically put the RTMP server and key in there for me. I didn't have to look it up. It put it in there for me. Okay. It does the same thing if I go to stream to Facebook. I click stream to Facebook, which I can't do right now because I've already set up YouTube. But if I click stream to Facebook, it will say you need to have permission, log into Facebook, give permission, blah, blah, blah. And it will put the RTMP server and RTMP key in there for you. I will show you how to get both of those tonight yourself manually in case something goes wonky and you need to find those keys. But it should get them automatically for you, and then we'll click next. And here's where it says it's going to stream to. So this is the link to see it stream live and in person. So if you want to share that link, you can. So I'm going to go ahead and open the webinar room. And I'm going to put my name in it. Click login. And right here, it says no video. That's because I'm currently connected to Zoom, and Zoom has my video. So I'm going to jump into Zoom and see if I can turn my video off, and we'll see if it'll pick it up. So I'm going to turn it off and then share my screen again. And let's see if it'll connect. So right here, let's see, screen desktop, no. Settings and video input device. We'll check our camera. And it looks like it's not going to let me do it because even though it's available, Zoom is probably still kind of holding it hostage. So let me go back to Zoom and redo my camera so you guys can see my happy little face. And we will pretend like I am on that video. So what happens is right now I am not streaming. The live stream is blank. There's nothing on there. And what I have to do is actually click the start streaming button to be able to stream. So once I click that, it's going to take those RTMP server URL and key, and it's going to connect to YouTube, and it's going to say, I have permission to access this YouTube channel with this URL and this key, so we can use this program to live stream on her channel. So that's what that RTMP server and key does. So if I click start stream, you'll see that this no video will actually go over here to this no video. And sometimes it takes a few minutes for that to do that. And there's also a delay. Once it does officially connect to YouTube, you'll be watching it here and it's just almost right on top of it and live. But then you watch it on YouTube and it's just not synced at all. So it'll drive you crazy. So if you have the YouTube channel open and looking, just turn your sound off for sure, or it'll create a lot of feedback. And also make sure that you're not really watching the YouTube version, because it will mess your mind up watching you speak. And then like a minute later, what you just said is actually being done on your mouth. And it's probably not going to live stream because I have the Zoom stuff going, but that's how you live stream to YouTube. Right now, if I was not on Zoom, this would be live streaming to my YouTube channel, and everything I said would actually be appearing there. Plus, it's a live stream, so it's actually recording it. And when I'm finished and I click stop stream, it will actually stop streaming, and it will be recorded on Facebook, and it will be available depending on if I make it public or unlisted or even private. Also, while I'm doing the presentation live to YouTube, I can actually activate my, I can stream my desktop. I can stream a whiteboard. There's a lot of neat stuff that I can do. I can also do the new picture-in-picture thing, which is really cool. So I can take a picture and put it inside of the picture to make it appear really cool, where I've got like two people side by side or a smaller picture inside of a bigger picture. They're working on some really cool stuff to make it even more a better presentation and more functional. So I've got the ability to stream only my camera, stream my desktop, picture in picture, or stream whiteboard. If I click whiteboard, that gives me just a plain old whiteboard that displays. It takes away my camera. Actually, I think it creates a smaller version of me in the corner. And then it gives me a whiteboard where I can just click and drag and type, or not type, but write. Just like that. And then Shelly loves B-A. There we go. So nobody gives penmanship awards on this one. So once you are finished, you can click clear and write some more, or you can click close and it will go back to showing your video again. And so if you're trying to take notes or draw a little picture or something like that, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, then you can actually draw something out and your people will see it. So I'm going to stop sharing and make sure that you guys are understanding so far what we've covered. And if you have any questions about streaming to Facebook or YouTube, because basically it's done about the same way. Any questions? Lisa.
So I noticed it didn't ask you which YouTube channel you wanted to stream to.
It did. When I went to authorize YouTube, it asked me first my Google username. And then once I did my Google username, then it said what channel. So I had to choose. I have several channels and I had to choose my channel.
All right, I blinked. So I missed that one.
Stop blinking, Lisa. Stop blinking.
My second question is, when you check the box that said allow invite participants, is the term participants referring to other hosts
Yes.
that present with you, or is it viewers?
Other hosts. So I could invite you, since I checkmarked it, I could invite you to participate. And let me jump in. I think I did check that. So to invite participants, let me see if I can find it again. Oh, right there, where it says invite participant. You would click there and it gives you a link. And I would copy that link and send it to up to 2 people that I would like to invite with me to present. And when they clicked on it, you would see them appear down here. And then when they appear down there, I can actually invite them. I can pull their image in, or I can kick their image out. So I can have all of us on there. I can have one of us on there. I can have a split screen. There's a lot of things I can do with more than one participant. But I will tell you that every time I've ever used the participant feature, it gets a little hairy because the more you add, the more it slows down that system. And then if you're talking about an already slow connection for one of the participants, then you'll get just a really bad strobe light effect where you just can't hear them, you can't see them. It's hard to flip back and forth because the system is really bogged down with trying to get that video to a quality level. So very rarely do I actually invite participants because it's just really hard on the system. And that's another reason why they went from having the ability to have up to 6 people down to only an additional 2, because it's really, really hard on the video system to have more than that. Okay. But if you want to do it, try it out. You may have a faster system than I do. So don't go by me. Definitely test it, retest it, and test again. But my experience has been it's a little glitchy. Chris, were you going to ask a question?
Shelley, I don't mean.
Hold on just a second, Davita. Let me get Chris and then I'll get you, okay?
Sorry, Davita. 2 questions real quick. Is there a preference between YouTube and Facebook? And I know you had mentioned on the second version that we haven't seen yet that it ties in with Messenger. Does this one tie in with Messenger as well?
No, this is strictly going live. So if you go live to Facebook, yes, but YouTube is not connected to Messenger at all. So if you go live to YouTube, you're not gonna be able to chat except if you have it enabled on your YouTube channel, right? And if I had a choice between Facebook and YouTube, I go live boo-koodles. And every time I go live to Facebook, I worry. It's like, is it going to work today? Is it going to work today? Is it going to work today? I have a lot more luck going live to YouTube. Plus, I've had a lot more luck with YouTube saving the video. There's been a lot of times that I've gone live to Facebook, and Facebook normally saves the video. You just click the button and Shazam, it processes and it's there. But I've lost a lot of training videos because even though I clicked it and said done, for some reason, Facebook glitches out and it doesn't save the video. So YouTube, I have a lot more luck on connecting and also saving the video. So if you asked me, I'd say YouTube, 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 Facebook, YouTube, 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 right? Just a bunch more times to YouTube than Facebook. Plus, you'll build up your YouTube channel if you go live to YouTube as well, which is really good. Okay. All right. Davida, go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about the internet, it really depends on your speed. And if you like, and that depends also on your area you live in, because if you live in a city, you're more likely to have a higher speed ability than when you live in a rural area.
Right. And I live in like a halfway rural area. We don't live in a big city. We don't have about 20,000 people, but I'm not in the country. So I have mediocre internet. It's not going to be like super lightning fast, but it's not bad. It'll do in a pinch. But I have some people that connect that don't have even the mediocre. It's maybe slightly less than mediocre. And then when you put that along with a service like the webinar platform that's really struggling to get everybody in and good video anyway, you've got just issues that pop up. So my suggestion would be that if you plan to do a live webinar with anybody as a participant in your webinar, that you test it several times before you actually do the live to make sure that you both can connect, that it's a good connection, they can see you, they can hear you. And if you guys are subscribers to my YouTube channel, you have seen me do test after test, after test, after test. If you subscribe, it'll give you a little ding that says Shelly's live. And you'll see me just looking at the screen. And it's because I'm testing something. And I usually jump in there at some point and say, hello, guys, I'm just testing. But that's the way you figure out if this thing will work for you. Because you test, retest, and then test again, especially if you're going to go live with something. All right. Davida, were you going to add to that?
Yeah. Like if you go to YouTube Live, you would want to make it private, especially if it's a webinar that you're charging for.
Oh,
So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely want to make it private if you're charging for it, for sure. In that situation, if it was something you were charging for, I would record that bad boy first and then put it as unlisted on YouTube and then put it on a page where it's protected. But the reality is there's a lot of ways to go after this one. I've gotten in trouble for saying this before because we have animal rights activists that are sometimes in these meetings, so please don't kill me. But there are many ways to skin a cat. Now, I'm going to say I don't skin cats. I'm just saying it as a saying. So my 2 cats that we let outside, they're completely safe, I promise. But the reality is that we're just talking about 1 or 2 ways, which is going live to Facebook and live to YouTube. There's a lot of other ways that we can do these lives that I'll show you as we go through this training, okay? Question, Linda K.
So I just want to let people be aware that if you've not done live streaming before, it could take up to 24 hours before they approve you to go live. So
that's very true. You have to, and there's a couple of things that you have to do. You not only have to enable live on your channel, but you also have to enable AdSense on your channel. Both of those things have to happen for you to be able to go live. And it does take up to 24 hours. Actually, I've set it up for live for several channels, and sometimes it can take more than 24 hours. So you do want to go through the steps to be able to set it up so that you can go live. And so you do have to enable a couple of things to be able to do that. Okay. All right. Roberto. Hello, Roberto.
Shelly, how are you doing? Hello, everyone.
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Good to see you all, guys.
Good.
Question, do you have, or does it have the background functionality?
Nope, not yet. But I think they were talking about it, so I don't think it's going to be too long, and we'll have that in there.
Awesome.
So hang in there.
You. Good.
All right, you guys, let's jump in. And now that we've looked at live streaming with Facebook and YouTube, let's look at the next one, which is the live on demand. This one's actually really cool. So let me share my screen, and I will stop streaming on this one. So I'm going to click stop streaming. And you have to do that to make sure that you stop the stream on either Facebook or YouTube. And that will actually clear the stream so it stops on either one that you're working with. And then you can just close the window, and that will actually close it for you. So I'm going to go back to the webinar, and we will close this one up. And I'm going to go to plus again. And this time, instead of streaming, I'm going to choose live on demand with the chat login. This is so cool. So I'm going to click next. And then the webinar name, I'm going to put Shelly's Awesome Webinar. And then I'm going to click next. And then I'm going to click create webinar. And now what this does is this gives me a ton of stuff to fill out to be able to set up my webinar. Now this gets a little hairy, so I want you to just relax. You can always watch this training again. Remember, it's going to be live on YouTube, but I am going to go through it pretty quick, or else we will be here until tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock a.m. So the first thing is the webinar name. You can see that's in there. And then, do you want this webinar protected with a password? That means that before they can see the webinar, they have to put in their password. And you can set the password as anything you want. And I want you to imagine this. When they sign up for your email list, you can send them information, including the password they need to get into the webinar. So that's actually really cool. And then the translation, for me, this is going to be in English, but you can see that we've got lots of different languages. And then the next section, so we've got several sections. We've got the general section, which is what we just created. And then we've got the content and schedule. So now what we're trying to find out is, on this live webinar, are we going to use YouTube to be able to do the live? So we can represent a YouTube video. So we put the link here as the live that's going in there, which is not actually live, but we can pretend like it's live. We can also choose an iframe. So if you've got an iframe code for a Vimeo or for a YouTube video, or iframe from some other web hosting platform like AWS, you can actually put that in as the embed code. You can also upload a video. So we're sending this to a page. You can upload a video, and I've actually already uploaded a few videos myself. If you haven't gotten any uploaded, you just click upload new video. It will upload it for you, and you can send that to your page, right? And remember, these are live videos / on-demand videos, okay? So these first three we looked at, YouTube video, iframe, and uploaded video, those are all pre-recorded videos that you're going to present on a page, and it's going to be probably on demand, right? You won't represent it as a live video because they will be recorded videos. So this will be for the on-demand version. But then we've got YouTube Live, which is like the exact same thing that we were doing on the live stream, except that we're going to live it to YouTube, and then it's going to go into our page. Let me look at your eyeballs to make sure you understand that. So the first three ones were pre-recorded on demand. Got it? The fourth one is YouTube Live, which means I'm going to send it to YouTube, to my YouTube channel. And then from the YouTube channel, it's going to go into the page that I put it in. So these people don't have to actually go to YouTube to watch it. They're going to go to my web page that's in my funnel to watch it. Does that make sense? Great. Also, the other cool thing about it is now we can personalize that page to look like the rest of our funnel. So it totally, even though it's going to say YouTube on it, they're not going to pay attention to that. They're going to go, wow, look at this person. They have a broadcast page with a live webinar in here. This is so cool, right? So it's a really neat way to do your webinar. So you're going to live stream to YouTube, and then the webinar tool is going to grab it and bring it and put it into your web page. All right. So let's keep going because we got a lot to look at. So YouTube live, and then you'll click this button to go live, and it will do the exact same thing that it did when we set it up to go live stream. Okay, so everything we did on the live stream is going to happen right here. Then we can say, do we want to enable text chat? So what that is while the video is going, or while the live is going, there'll be a chat underneath that video, and people can actually type in there and put their messages, put their questions, put their woohoos and all that kind of stuff. And you can set it up so that you get those messages and you can respond back using your mobile phone. So we can enable chat. And then the text chat percent of the screen, usually about 30% is really good. That's a really good amount to put on the screen. And then do you want the text chat to appear at the bottom, at the top, or to the left or the right of the video? I actually like mine at the bottom. That's to me the best place to put it. But I've seen a couple people that have put it over to the side. And then there's more chat options. So I'm going to click that. And you can have a maximum number of messages that show on the screen. You can save the chat history, and then once it's done, you can download it. You can pre-moderate content by going into the moderation tool, and none of the messages will be seen unless a moderator approves them. But you have to have somebody in the moderation tool to be able to moderate, or nobody's messages are going to get in there. And then the chatbot integration key, you'll go into the chatbot tool, which is the Facebook chatbot. And I think the last item on the menu for the Facebook chatbot is the chat integration, and you can get the key from there. So you'll put the key in there that connects it to the chatbot for Messenger, and that enables you to get all of the messages that they type in into your Messenger, so that you can answer them back through Messenger, and they will get the answer as if you were sitting there and watching the webinar and participating in the webinar. And then the chatbot account name this is where you put the account name. So let me stop sharing for a minute, because this is like super duper powerful, right? Because what it means is you can now go live to YouTube, take that YouTube video, put it on a web page, so it looks like you are just working really hard. Or you can take a recording and put it onto that page. And let's say it's a recording, I can be on the beach in Hawaii drinking Mai Tais. And if I've got my mobile phone with me, when they start typing in their questions, I'll get them on my phone and I can type in the answers and send the answer. And it looks like I'm not sitting on the beach enjoying Hawaii with a Mai Tai, right? That's the really cool thing about it. So, and it doesn't have to be me. I can have some virtual assistants that are answering these for me. There's a lot of ways that we can do this so that we have some really engaging webinars without having to be the one that's sitting there for every single webinar. Can you imagine if you do the scheduled one? If you've got it scheduled 4 times a day, you don't want to be sitting in that webinar 4 times a day. But it's okay to have your phone beside you, so that thing runs 4 times a day. And then if they have questions and they send them to you, you can answer them. That's a heck of a lot easier than sitting through the webinar and waiting for those questions that may or may not come. Okay. So to me, this is a very, very powerful tool. Chip, go ahead.
Where does this moderation tool hide?
That's in that same screen. You have to open up the actual webinar, and it will say moderation, admin moderation access, or something like that. Let me show you. So once I'm done doing all these settings, right here is where it says open moderation tool. So if I check mark that, then I can click that at the time of the webinar. So I'm going to, at the time of the webinar, I'm going to go live if it's a YouTube live. If it's a recording, then I just click moderation tool during the time of the webinar, and I can moderate all of the chats. Does that make sense? Yeah, you would really only do moderation if you were doing either a live video or if you were going to be present at like every single on demand that was done, which you're probably not going to do.
It's not like we have anywhere to go.
Well, that's for you guys that are on social distancing, yes, and isolation, yes. But really, I would see the only way that you use it really effectively is on those live webinars, right? So any other questions before I keep going?
They
Lisa,
don't know
go
how
ahead.
long social distancing is going to last either.
Nope, not yet. We don't know. It's okay though. We will handle it because we are awesome. Go ahead, Lisa.
Quick question. One of the choices for the video content was upload video. So are you saying that we could upload like an hour-long MP4 and Builderall hosts that?
Yeah, but it does count towards your 10 gigabytes.
Oh,
So,
okay. Yeah, good
yeah,
point.
so be careful with that because you can imagine a couple of hour-long videos and you're going to be bumping up that 10 gigabyte size.
Very good point.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, so honestly, if you have an hour-long one, get it on YouTube, put it as unlisted, and then do it as a YouTube video. Okay. Any other questions, you guys? Oh, Chris, go ahead.
Okay, those messages from Messenger that are coming in on that recorded video that we put up. So it's 3 days later and somebody asks a question that obviously wouldn't be recorded. That's just live and it wouldn't show up for the next time it plays the next day, correct?
Correct. But I'm going to show you another really cool tool if you don't know about it already. That's called Ghost Users. This is another one of my favorite things. Now we have the chat tool, which is amazing. And let me finish that section up by telling you that you have to set up the chat bot so that it's connected with Facebook. So that part is a little bit of a challenge, but I've got a whole training on that. Just look it up on YouTube and type in Builderall Facebook chatbot, and you will find some training. Wasili's done some fabulous training. You can find Wasili training. There's plenty of training out there to learn how to set up the chat bot so that you can connect it, so that you can answer these people as they're watching these webinars. But let's talk about exactly what Chris said. On the live version, you're going to be there, you're going to be present, you're going to be answering. But what about these recorded versions? What can you do to keep engagement? And maybe throw some of those questions in there that the people would have that's a very common question, so that you can keep engagement going and people don't have to ask that question and you don't have to try to answer it. So we can actually create something called ghost users, and I'm going to jump in there. And what ghost users are users that you create to type in the chat at a specific time period of the webinar. So this would be for like a recorded webinar, and they can ask a question, they can respond to one of your questions. So let's say maybe at 2 minutes in, you say, what's your favorite color? And to create engagement, maybe you create 3 ghost users that jump in there and say, my favorite color is red. And then you have the smart one, the smart alecky one that says, well, my favorite color is blue because I'm always looking up at the sky, right? Something to just create people that are engaged. And what happens is you're going to see that your audience, even though these are ghost users, they don't know that. And they will start engaging as well. So you have 3 ghost user colors. Then you'll start seeing the actual audience participate and tell you their favorite color as well. You can also use these ghost users to ask the most common questions that you get on these webinars. So at a time period where you're coming up close to being able to answer that, you can actually put the ghost user in there as asking that question. And then in the recording, you'll say something like, you know what, I'm glad you asked that question. I see in the chat that we've got a question about blah, 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 blah. I'm glad you asked that question. Let me answer that now. So it's a way to kind of take the fear away from people asking questions. And I know that you guys know about this. When you're on a webinar and you really want to ask that question and you're like, I'm not going to ask that question because it's probably the dumbest question that's ever been asked. I'm not typing that in. But you can use ghost users to put in those frequently asked questions, especially the ones that you experience on the live version, so that you can just kind of jump ahead of it and help keep that engagement going. Chip?
Can you cancel it at the last moment if somebody asks the question you've pre-recorded that's about to come up, but there they are?
Yeah, I think I don't know if you can do it live. I mean, these would be this. You have to really carefully plan out these ghost users. So you'd have to go into the webinar like before you did it and remove the ghost users. I don't think you can do it like on the fly. But you can imagine if you've got let's say a 25-minute webinar, and at 20 minutes you're going to be talking about you're finally going to get into the pricing, right? All these webinars do the pricing at the last minute. So at 20 minutes, you can have somebody jump in there and say, so tell us how much this is going to cost. And you can say something like, oh, I see that we're already asking about how much this product costs. Let's jump in there and get to the price of it. So it's just, again, it's a way to create engagement. And you are going to be putting those ghost users at the exact time that you want them to ask the question during the webinar, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if the question's already come up, you finesse it.
You finesse it, or you don't even have to mention it, right? Because everybody else that's in the webinar will go, well, Bob, we already answered that question. Where you been? Right? Like we do in all of our Builderall meetings. I think Roberto had a question, and then I'll get to Bonnie.
Thank you, Shelly. As far as the video being placed in YouTube, what was it what you said can be unlisted, but it's still in YouTube?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What
Absolutely.
I mean, what would you do it that way? What is the advantage of actually having unlisted?
The advantage is that if it's unlisted, people cannot find it on YouTube unless they have the link.
Okay.
And you're not showing it on YouTube. You're showing it on your webpage. Right?
Would that also avoid that option or avoid that situation where they actually finish the webinar and options are coming down below? You know that some of the options, some of the videos come up.
It doesn't fix that. I know there's a code. I don't have it with me. I'd have to look it up. I know there's a code that you can set it up so that it does show optional videos, but it only shows from your channel. So there is a code for that now. There used to be a code that you could take off those ads, but YouTube changed it. You can't take off the additional videos, but you can use the code so that it only shows your account. So even if I don't get that for you guys, you can Google it, and all you have to say is, something like YouTube, I don't know, end of video options or something like that, and there'll be a bunch of sites that'll give you that code that you can add to the end of the link to the actual video that you're showing. Okay. So look that up. That's recently changed, like in the last, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, something like that. Bonnie, go ahead.
So have you done like a PDF document on the steps on how to do this to make it?
No, Bonnie, this is like what? Not even a month old.
Okay.
This whole new system is not even a month old.
Right, because I know that I'd have to come back and listen to this. So I may actually, if I do it, I'll let you know, and you can put it.
Fantastic, because honestly,
like I'm listening to this and I have a headache, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to remember all the different steps. So I'll have to listen to this.
Well, and the issue is that there's many different directions. I actually had someone today that I put up a little thing that showed how to add your subscribers to Builderall into your mailing boss list. And he said, wow, this is great. We need this for everything. And I was like, well, there's some of those that you'd have to have 52 pages to show all the steps and all the directions that you can go. And that's kind of how this is. There's a lot of different steps, a lot of different directions you can go. So to put together a comprehensive PDF takes quite a while to make it comprehensive.
I'll say, because my business partner wants to start doing webinars. And so if I don't have it down pat and be able to just look at something to be able to do it, it's never going to happen.
Well, so and then the other side of it is, as soon as you finally do get the PDF done and it's perfect, we'll change.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know, along with all the other stuff I'm doing.
Get ready.
Oh my God.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump in. Wait, any more questions before I keep going? All right. right, you guys are with me. That's great. Now let's go ahead and jump in again. So we talked about the value of these ghost users. These are absolutely fabulous. It is so incredibly exciting for me to think about. Not only do we have that text chat capability, but we have the ghost users. That's above and beyond most webinar platforms for sure. And then once we get all of that configured, then the next step is go into the webinar room appearance. And you can actually do a poster, which is what appears before you go live. So you can grab any picture that's 1280 by 720 and drop it in there, and it will show before you go live. And then you've got a back timer appearance. So the timer that's starting to like count down when the webinar is supposed to start. All kinds of neat stuff that you can add to your webinar. And then email settings. Yes, you can actually set it up so that they have email when they come into the room. So they have to register by using an email. And then this is the mailing boss reference to send collected email to. So you click that down arrow, and this is what the I forget what this is. Create a new reference. We recommend using mailing boss as the reference. Oh, this is when are you going to list and what are you going to send these out and what list are you going to use? And then what does the email appearance look like? So you have to set your time zone. So mine's local time zone of Central, and the date format. And I don't know what the tags are yet. That's still a mystery. But I think inside the email, it will list the webinar title, the live link to the actual webinar, and then the recorded link. And you can use these in the email. So those are the email settings, and it will send out reminder emails for your particular webinar if you want emails to be sent out. Now, this is a quick email that goes out. Remember that for this content, we're just doing either a live video, so it's a one-time shot, or an on-demand, meaning that whenever they click go to webinar, it will initiate the webinar. So we're not going to be able to send out a whole series of emails that say 2 hours until your webinar, 1 hour until your webinar. This is just a quick email, and we're going to collect their email information so we can add them to Mailing Boss. Okay, so that's the grand idea on this one. So we've covered all of the settings for the live/on-demand version. And now what we need to do is actually talk about how do we get this live on demand to show. So to do that, we're going to go right here to the embed code. And if I click that, it gives me two different links. The first one is the direct link. So if I click here and copy this link and then go into a new page and paste it, this is the direct link into the webinar. And remember, I checked that I have to put my email in. So it's asking me for my email. So I'm going to say I'm the Builderall Diva. And my email is Shelly@builderalldiva.com and send. And now I'm actually in the webinar room. And I want you to notice down here, there's a chat. So I can say hello and enter. And now I've actually said hello in the chat. And all I'm doing now is waiting for the webinar to go live, right? Or waiting for, if this was an on-demand, it would actually start immediately. Okay, does that make sense? I can't see you. Hold on just a second. All right, does that make sense? Let me see some thumbs up. Good. Okay, good. All right, so that is how we do the direct link. The next method is, go back into the webinar, and that is an iframe. So right here, I have the embed code to embed this webinar into my my Cheetah page, or it even works for Pixel Perfect. So I could copy that iframe, and then I can go into any Cheetah page. So let's jump into Cheetah. So I'm going to go into Cheetah, and I'm going to open just a test website. So I've got lots of test websites. So there we go. And we'll go to this one. And okay. And all I'm going to do now is actually get an iframe. So I'm going to go to add elements and iframe, and I'm going to drag that over. And I'm going to make it bigger. And then I'm going to, in general settings where it says iframe, I'm going to embed the embed code and then apply. And now that iframe is there, it's actually ready for me. And if it's an on demand, then it will play the video when they hit this page. If it's live, then it's going to wait for me to go live to YouTube, and then it's going to stream it to the page. So that's how you actually set it up to access your page. There's one other way you can do it to access your page, and that is there's a webinar tool. So if I go to add elements and go all the way down to webinar and then drag this in, this is the webinar tool. And I will drag it over to make it plenty big. And then when I click on that webinar tool and get the settings, it's asking for an ID and a secret key. So to get that, I need to go into the webinar settings right here. And in the direct link, there's an ID right here and a secret key right here. So if I click on that number that's beside ID, that's my ID. I can copy that and put it into that page. So there's the ID. And then go back, and here's the secret key. You can copy that and then go back to that page and put it in. And then click save. And now that's actually ready as well to connect to the webinar platform so that when I go live or if it's on demand, it will play at the right time. Okay. So everybody understand where I got the ID and the secret key from. Got it?
Do it again.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden. It's hidden in that HTML code. So let me show you again. Go to webinar and let me see if I can make it any bigger. There we go. So right there is the embed code. And if you notice that ID equals, and it goes all the way to an and sign. So ID equals 448. So you would just click on the 448 and copy that. And then there's a secret key. So that one's right there. So secret equals. So everything after the equals right there is the secret key. So you would copy that and put it into that webinar element that's in Cheetah. Okay. Got it? You see your eyeballs, make sure you got it. Pretty okay? All right, fantastic. So any questions about the live or on demand? Linda, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Maybe I missed something. Before you got to this step, there's, the content you're sending out. You said it's going to send out a one-time email link.
Actually, I think in this one, I think I was like completely wrong. I was crossing up this one with the schedule. I don't think this one sends an email out. I think
okay, I was going to say, how do we?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, how do we tell it to go not to the webinar but to the page? Do we find?
Yeah. I think this is.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think this is only. It was my mistake. I think this one is only where we collect the email. We can't set up a series of emails.
Okay, good. All right. Thanks, Shelley.
You're welcome. Sorry about that. That was my mistake. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, just a few quick questions. When you said you could upload a video to this one, was there a size limit to that?
I think the size limit used to be 1 gigabyte, but I'm not positive anymore because that's a long time ago that it used to be that size. So if it was any substantial size, I would not upload it. I would get it to YouTube or Vimeo and then do either an iframe with Vimeo or just a link to the YouTube video, because whatever size it is, it's going to go against your 10 gigabyte size limit that you have for your Builderall account. Okay.
Okay. And then the other question was two things. The translation, before we get too far away from it, the translation, what is that actually translating? And the poster part, I still don't get that part, the poster.
The poster is just the image that appears on the broadcast screen until you go live.
Like a
So-
like a thumbnail on
with the
YouTube.
thumbnail, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the translations are, if you want to do your webinar in French, right? There are things that show up on the screen and in chat that say, say to do something, and those translations can work for the French-speaking members. So they can create the webinar and create the chat and everything, and all the buttons and everything will appear in their language. So they don't have to translate from English to French. It does it automatically.
Got it.
Kind
And I
of the
just
same
have
idea
one.
as if you change your language on your desktop, on your dashboard, everything appears French on your dashboard, right? So if you change the language to French for the webinar, then the webinar, everything that you do for the webinar that shows up on your page is going to be in that language.
Great. And just one comment. This is for Willie.
You guys. Neither one of them work, you guys. I'm a Denver Broncos fan. We will return. I'm just saying. All right, guys, let's jump in and look at the last one really quickly. I think we've covered everything for the live/on-demand. Let me tell you also, let me stop sharing a minute. I need to make sure I cover this. The on-demand, it's really important that you remember that you can just put a button on a page and then have them click that button to go to the on-demand page and the video will start. That's why it's on demand. The live version, there's this really cool tool called a timer. And on the pages, we can set timers. And at the end of the timer, when it's done, it will flip over and send it to the new page. So when you're sending it to a live version where you're going to start at 8 o'clock, you can actually set the timer so that it flips the page over to the live version at 8 o'clock. Okay? Got it? Some cool stuff, right? All right, let's go ahead and keep going. And I'm going to go ahead and hop out of this one. So I'll go back to the webinar list. And you can see that Shelly's awesome webinar is there. And when I'm ready to go live with it, I can actually click on here and then content and schedule and go live, right? So that's how fast you can get in to go live with your webinar, correct? And then also, if you take a look, we can get somebody to come in as a VA, and they can click the admin panel. And right here, we can choose to go live with YouTube on the admin panel, or we can choose to open the moderation tool so that we can moderate the webinar. Okay, so those are the tools that you can use to be able to go live or to moderate. Got it? All right, now let's do another one. So I'm going to go to plus, and I'm going to go down here to evergreen. And this means that I'm going to create a webinar that's going to consistently keep running, and everything that's in the webinar as far as information is valid no matter how long I let the webinar run. So this means I'm probably not going to have any special pricing because that would be a temporary time. I'm probably not going to have any references to any current events, because you can imagine if you had a webinar that referenced the coronavirus and it's 6 months down the line and we've all forgotten about coronavirus, that would be a dated webinar. It would not be considered like an evergreen webinar. So everything in the webinar is good information, no matter what time of day, no matter what time of year. It always runs, and it doesn't give away that it's actually dated. Okay. So I'm going to click next on this, and we're going to call this Shelly's Awesome Webinar 2. I'm going to click next, and now I'm going to click Create Webinar. So when I do that, it's going to come up with all the same stuff that I had before, but a couple of other things that I can add to it. And that's typically right here in the content and schedule. So in the general area, I've got the name of the webinar. I can protect it with a password that I give them, the password in an email. This would not work for the on-demand. That would be really difficult. But for the scheduled ones, definitely you might have time to get out an email so that you can send them a password. I can do content and schedule. And here we've got the same video sources. So we've got YouTube video, iframe, upload video, or YouTube live. So we can go live to this if we want to. And then we've got the text chat. So we can enable the text chat. And then we've got the ghost users, where we want to position the text chat at. We've got the additional chat options, integration with the chat bot. So you can see that there's a lot of things that we can do, same as the other one. But here's where we get into a little bit hairy situation, and that is the schedule. So the start date of this webinar, when do you want this webinar to start showing? Okay. And I definitely would not do YouTube live. I would do it as either YouTube, iframe, or upload a video, because YouTube live means you got to be live on every single time that you put, which would be crazy. So I'll put YouTube, and then you would put the YouTube link there. So start date, let's say that we're going to start it on March the 25th, and the start time, let's see, we can make it 8 o'clock p.m. Let's change that to 8 o'clock, or 7 o'clock is just as good. And the duration of it is, we'll say 60 minutes. And then that gives you the first instance of it. And then you can click repeat. And it says repeat intervals. I want to repeat this webinar every 4 hours. Or I can repeat it every 4 days, every 1 day, every week. So I have an option to repeat this webinar. So if I start this at 7 o'clock p.m., then it will run every 4 hours after that. Okay, does that make sense? And then once we set it to repeat, we're going to actually have to set up some other information. So let's go to the webinar appearance. This is the exact same as we had before. Then the email settings, and we can require the email to get into the webinar. And then we've got the email appearance. So we have to set our time zone, which is crazy. The date format and the tags, I'm still not real sure what the tags are for, but we'll figure that out. And then the forms. For this one, we can actually add a form. And so I'm going to put new form on here so you can see what this is. I'm going to click OK. And here is the form to show when these are available and which one they want to choose to attend. So you'll see that it's got a 7 o'clock, then it's got an 11 o'clock, then it's got a 3 o'clock a.m. So it's going to set up those times. And so we can say the URL that they have to go to once they indicate what time they want. So we put that URL in there. And then email notifications. Do we want to send email notifications? This is where we set up our email sequence. Okay. We can say do not send or notification. And then here's where we set up the email sequence. So we have to set up the series of emails that we want to go out to people once they register. And where do we want the email that is the send from? So this one might be Shelly@builderall.com. And then email capture. What do we want the email capture to look like? Let's see. We recommend create new mailing box integration reference. So this is actually the integration where you set up a tag. And I haven't done that, so I can't tell you a whole lot about that yet, but it uses the integration key. So I just have to play with it a little bit to figure that out. And then we've got styling. So this is what you want your form to look like. So there's a classic version, and let me make this larger so you can see it. So this is what the classic version looks like. You can change it to a standard version. So you can see that it's giving them the option of what time they want to choose. And then a modern version. If this is but ugly, it looks really bad because the text is too light. And then a blue version. This one's not too bad, but I don't like this one. And then minimalistic. And then this again is actually too minimal for my taste. So the one I usually go with is the standard because it's really bright colored and easy to see and easy to indicate which ones you want to go to. So that's design I go to the most. And then translation. So on the title, I've got upcoming webinars. Subtitle is select and subscribe. So these are, if you are doing it in a different language, these languages are not set up for the form. So if you take a look at the area of upcoming webinar, if you were doing this in French, you could type in the French version of the upcoming webinar. Subtitle, select and subscribe. So you could put your language in there to make sure that your form was actually set up correctly to reflect your language. Okay. Then for European nations, we've got GDPR enabled, so you can check mark that. And then you can actually get the embed code for this form. So if I click that, I've got the direct link, which will take me to the URL for the form, or I can get the iframe to embed the form into a page. And this enables them to see that form and choose which version they want to go to, which time slot they want to go to. And once they do that and they put in their email, that will trigger the emails to go out to them to remind them based on what you set up of when that email is going to happen, or sorry, when that webinar is going to happen, what time it's going to start, and the link to be able to attend the webinar and any other information you want to put into the emails. So this is a little bit more complicated than we've seen in any of the other versions. But remember, what we're setting up is a lot more, because we're setting up the email to be able to go out. We're setting up the notifications, how many events there are going to be, how many seats there are going to be. So if I click this one, that event time period on the 25th at 7 o'clock, let's see. Let's see, there we go. So I can say the 2 nearest events to it, I want 5 seats as already taken and 50 seats available. So if I wanted to really create scarcity, I could put in 45 seats are already taken and 50 seats are available. So they've only got 5 seats, they better get their seat fast. Okay, so that's what that means right there. And then of course the styling we talked about, so that they can see that form that's set up. And then translation if you're doing it in another language. The rest of the webinar platform is translated into other languages, but the forms are not. So you have to make sure that the forms are ready for you to be able to set it up for your language. And then of course we've got GDPR available so that we can meet the needs of our European members as well. So once you've set up all of that and you've got your embed form for the form, you can put that form into the page so they can register for the webinar. And then you can send all of the information about the webinar to them so they can have the link to the page that they need to go to at the time of the webinar. Okay, does that make sense? So once you configure all of this information, you're going to click the get embed code exactly like we talked about before. You can either send them directly to the webinar as a HTML page. You can embed the code on a Cheetah page, or you can get the webinar element and get the ID and the secret key and add that to the webinar element inside of Cheetah. So 3 different ways that you can send them to the webinar. All right, so that is the scheduled evergreen webinar and how you would set that up. So anybody have questions about that? That's a lot of stuff in it. Lisa, go ahead.
So in the previous webinar platform, there was a way to communicate internally without using Mailing Boss, where the person, when they registered, would get emails that were already done that said, you know, it's going to start in an hour, and you had a choice of how many of those messages went out. Is that still part of the tool? Is that still there?
Let me see. So email notifications, notification group. And I don't think they have the pre-made ones, but we can, looks like we can add anything we want to. So we can create
Awesome.
a new email and then set it to go 10 minutes before, 5 minutes before, 1 hour before. We can create as many of them as we want.
Awesome. So that's the internal notification sequence.
Mhm.
And now we also have Mailing Boss
Yes.
that we can use too. So that's fantastic.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
if I go back to the Canvas tool and I look at the webinar sequence, it'll
Mhm.
help me put these pieces together. So thank you.
Yeah. And you can go into the old version too, the
Yeah.
old webinar, and see what they had set up in there. Yep, absolutely. Any other questions, you guys? I like that question, Lisa, because I hadn't even thought about the old version and how they had all those, like, your webinar starts in 1 hour. Your webinar starts in 30 minutes. Your webinar starts in 5 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah,
I totally forgot about
great. Thank you.
that. Chris?
Yeah, question about the time zone. So if you have a time zone of 8 p.m. on Eastern time, but somebody in California is opting in, does that automatically transfer from where?
No, I think it's going to send out based on your time zone, but it's still going to tell them you need to make sure in your email that it says like blah blah Eastern time, so they can translate it themselves. I don't think that it translates to their time zone. The other thing is you need to make sure in Mailing Boss that you set your time zone, which is in the settings when you first set up Mailing Boss, so that it mails out at the right times as well. Okay. All right. Any other questions, you guys? I've covered a lot, and you guys have done so great. Now I will tell you that let me show you one more thing, because I want to show you how you can get those RTMP secret URL and key from Facebook or YouTube. Okay, because if for some reason it's not capturing, you can manually put those in if you're trying to go live. So let me jump into share, and then we'll go to YouTube first. And I'm live, so it may not let me do this. I'm going to go to this little button right here where it says create a video or post, and I'm going to go live. And we'll go test. And no, it's not for kids, and create stream. And what it's going to do is when I get ready to do a live stream, it's going to pop up with this information right here, which is the stream key and the stream URL. Those are the two things that you're going to need to put into the webinar platform to be able to live stream to YouTube. So if it cannot find the RTMP stream URL and stream key, you can manually find it and put it in. So that's for YouTube. Now let's take a look at Facebook. So I'll go to Facebook. And I'll pretend like I'm going live. So I'm going to click live video. And Facebook has completely changed the way their live looks now. So right here where it says get started, you're going to, instead of choose camera, you're going to choose stream keys. And when you choose stream keys, it's going to give you your server URL for RTMP and the stream key. So these are the two things that you need to be able to stream live to Facebook from the webinar platform. Okay, so those are the ways that you can get to those ever so important server URL and stream keys to be able to live stream to YouTube or live stream to Facebook if it doesn't manually get them for you. Now, it should manually get them for you once you give it permission to do that, but every once in a while there's a snafu. And if you have the right information, which is what I just gave you, you can actually manually go in and get those keys and do it anyway, even if it's being persnickety. Okay?
And then cross your fingers so that it works.
Yeah, and Facebook is the biggest one, right? Facebook is the one that is really persnickety. Do you guys have any other questions or comments about the webinar platform? We really did cover a lot. Are you excited?
Shelley?
Yeah, Sabrina, go ahead.
Unfortunately, the features that you just showed, the middle feature for the YouTube Live does not work in my account.
Okay.
Do you have any pull with the support people? I've been trying since last Friday.
I have like no superpowers in that area, but we can stick Gustavo on you and see if he can't chase it down. Have you worked with Gustavo yet?
No, I have not.
All right. So what I want you to do is private message me on Facebook the ticket number that you've been dealing with and the exact issue and any images or video or anything like that. Send me everything that you've got, and I'll get it all to Gustavo, and we'll see if we can't stick him on the developers. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. All right. Any other questions or comments? You guys have that look on your face like, holy cow, what did she just cover today?
I need to go through it and just do it step by step. I have to make a list. So when I have that ready, I'll let you guys all know. Because right now there's too many things.
Yep, there's a lot of things to that one, definitely. Chris, go ahead.
It sounds like you're kind of recommending the middle one.
I love probably the going live the most. And I love going live to YouTube the most because I can go lickety split live to YouTube. It saves it on YouTube for my YouTube channel. And then if I want to do anything with it, then I just download it off the channel and edit it and then send it right back up to the channel. So it's actually way easy for me to go live. But I do love the going live to YouTube and then streaming into a page. And we do that. We used to do that all the time with the training that we did weekly with affiliates. We used to have an affiliate page that we'd stream live to, and we used the webinar tool to do that. So we'd go live to YouTube and then stream it from YouTube into the page. So they'd have to actually watch it on the affiliate page to get to see it. So it's really cool. So but I do love the live. I've always loved the live. The biggest thing I miss with the live is definitely having all of you guys here with me. So you'll see me sometimes go live with Zoom into YouTube and then onto a page as well. So I've done it, I think, one of every single way that you can do it. But I definitely prefer the lives. All right. Any other questions or comments? Lisa, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you because I think it's such a powerful tool. I've used a lot of different webinar platforms and I think it's so powerful and it's a little bit intimidating. So I'm excited to just dive in and start trying different things and it'll work out. So I really appreciate you going through this.
You are so welcome. I'm so glad to go through all the settings with you guys. And I remember the first time I went through the webinar platform and every click I was like, do what? 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 And it really does take clicking again, trying this, trying that. Oh my gosh, it's not working. What did I do? Maybe you flip-flop the RTMP thing so that the keys in the URL, the URLs and the key, done that before. So just play with it and see what you can do. And this video will be out here so that you can grab it and take a look at it and run through it again and see what all these settings mean and what you can do with them. And of course, it will be changing and morphing and getting better and better all the time. They're going to be adding, I'm sure, some more features to it, which means we'll be doing another training at some point to get some of the new features in there that they've added, which is really, really exciting. And Roberto, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, Shelly, is there any way to test it out without actually going live? I mean, I want to connect it to YouTube or Facebook, but without actually going live.
I go live every time I test it. I just warn everybody.
I know you do.
I just name it test and then run it live. It's so important that you test it for real. And right when you're done testing, you can go right into YouTube and delete it. It doesn't, it won't hurt you. I don't think it's ever hurt me. I think people that see me go live and they just see me looking at the screen like I've lost my mind. I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, Shelly's testing again. She's testing again. That crazy lady, she's testing again. And that's okay because that means you're going to be really good at it and pretty soon you won't have to test anymore. Okay. So test away and then just delete it when you're done so that only a certain number of people have maybe saw you go live. It's no big deal. But testing is a major part of really understanding how this works. Okay.
And those keys that you get from YouTube and Facebook, do they change? So you need to get them every time you go live, or once
The
you get it?
Facebook ones do. I don't think the YouTube ones change. I know the URL stream doesn't change very much, but the key may or may not change. I don't think I've paid attention to it hard enough to tell you for sure yes or no.
Thank you for the teaching today.
I'm just
It was
super
great.
glad when it worked. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, any last questions at all? All right, I'm going to let you go. I want to thank you so much for sticking with me. You guys stuck through a really tough training for an hour and a half. So what I want you to do is go run a bubble bath and just relax and don't think about webinars anymore tonight, or else your head's going to actually explode. Trust me on this. So relax, enjoy the rest of the evening. Chris is going to enjoy his football team. You guys wait till you see me in all my Denver Broncos stuff. Then we'll talk. All right, guys, have a fabulous night. Thank you again. And don't forget to build something amazing in Builderall. Bye, you guys.
Shelley.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.